Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to JT's Mixtape. This is episode number 79. And if you guys are enjoying these podcasts, please give me a 5-star review on either Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you.
Come closer, my child.
What's going on, y'all? This podcast is brought to you by Modern Roots Life. Modern Roots Life is a Christian-owned and operated company, and it's bringing real health back to its roots. They offer powerful, all-natural health supplements such as beef liver, cod liver oil, beef tallow, magnesium, and mineral-rich salts, all sourced the way God intended. Clean, simple, and from the earth. So whether you're looking to boost your energy, restore mineral balance, or just fuel your family with real nourishment, Modern Roots Life has got you covered. Guys, in this community, we're trying to get healthy in our mind, in our body, and our spirit. So don't neglect your health. If you want more information, check out modernrootslife.com and check the link in my description. You know, people often ask me how they can support me. Well, I think it's pretty cool if you can support me by supporting the people who support me, and you get something in return. And being healthy is a pretty good return. Well, family, back from Arizona. And we don't have the whole crew together today, but maybe Brian might show up in a little bit. But I do have my co-host with me, Aaron, the host of our little Arizona trip. What's going on, Aaron?
What's up, y'all? Happy to be here.
Yeah, it was an epic trip going to the Quest for the Ancients conference. And if Derek Olson, if you're watching, I really appreciate you, man. That was the highlight of the trip, getting to hang out with Derek a little bit. His channel is called Megalithic Marvels, and he gave a incredible presentation because, you know, when you start to do research into maybe angels, giants, elongated skulls, and megaliths and stuff like that, you know, me and Brian have done a lot of research into that. Obviously, we made the movie Ancient Angels, but it's a rare occasion when I can watch somebody's presentation and he's, you know, on the screen, he's showing all the different megaliths and all the different places where they found elongated skulls. And I want to say a good 60% of his presentation I'd never seen or heard of. And so Derek is he's a super humble guy, and he's humble because he does know so much, and he has gone to all the places, and he's actually put his hands on the stuff and actually took the pictures himself. And so I appreciated him, and I got to talk to my old TikTok buddy, Luke Caverns, who was speaking there too. And of course, there was Billy Carson there as well. And that was pretty interesting to meet Billy Carson for a second and listen to him. Oh my gosh, just I thought I knew who Billy Carson was, but I actually had no idea.
And now you know.
Yeah, it was like, you know, we all know that, especially with the Wes Huff thing where he's coming hard against Jesus. Wes Huff exposed that he actually really doesn't know what he's talking about. So I was kind of always aware of him, but I really had no idea like the level of the insanity and the stuff that he was saying until I was actually saw it and heard it with my own ears and eyes. I was just like blown away, like, oh my gosh, people actually take this guy seriously.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people that get a platform and, well, let's just say there's many methods to getting a platform, and having all the facts isn't necessarily one of those methods.
Well, I think it seems like he relies on the fact that the quote unquote facts he's dropping are really hard to discern what the actual fact is. Like I guess he wrote a book about the dimensions of the pyramid and the dimensions of the pyramid. I've heard a lot of people say this, that it has something to do representing like the northern hemisphere, or then the speed of light, or like the distance between the sun and the moon and the whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like all these kind of cosmic distances that we know are just like totally made up. And he starts talking about the dimensions of the pyramid, saying, well, obviously the ancient Egyptians must have had some knowledge of space travel because blah, blah, blah. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, if you look at what the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians showed for their cosmology, you ever seen the image of like it looks like a woman kind of stretched out over the earth and with all the stars. It's very similar to all the other ancient, you know, um, views of the realm we live in. There's a dome, there's stars and the sun, the moon inside this covered enclosed space, and yeah, it's depicted as like a flat Earth model.
Yeah, I think to me it's just really simple. At a certain point in time on this journey, like when you start going down rabbit holes, you at a certain point in time you decide one of two things. Oh, the Bible's true. The Bible's real. The Bible is accurate. Everything it says in the Bible is real, is true. And I know, listen, I get it. Like some things have been altered, words have been swapped out, stuff like that over the years. Like I understand that. That's a whole other conversation. But then you've got the opposite end of the spectrum, which is I'm going to discredit this any way that I can. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to discredit this religion. I'm going to discredit the Bible. I'm going to go hard into the esoteric. I'm going to go hard into the new age. I'm going to go hard. Like, I feel like at a certain point in time, it branches off and you have to make a choice. And so it's very obvious that like he's anti-Bible, anti-Jesus, anti like all of that stuff. And the reality of it is there's a huge amount of people that want to hear about that. There's a huge amount of people that want to rally behind that and talk about that and talk about all of the all and so the thing is once you decide to wholeheartedly like go against the truth, like there are no rules. Like where does the like what are the rules for make believe?
Yeah, you're right. I always say that God's word would kind of be my the thing that grounds me. It's like it's my true north, right? This is the thing that keeps me from getting too crazy out with theories. And you take
Yeah.
something like that, yeah, there's nothing to tether this person to any kind of real reality. So then reality becomes the craziest thing somebody will believe that you say. And
Yeah.
that's what it seems like. It seems like that some of the things he would say would be, what did he say? That the dimensions of the pyramid related to the average height of every mountain peak on the earth. And so
I
like
didn't
you
hear that.
just that idea, right? Is that for one, how many mountain peaks are there on earth? There's a lot. I mean, there's like who's measured every one of them and then averaged the heights and then tried to correlate that with the dimensions of the pyramid. So like when you say something like that, it's hard to prove that that's wrong because that involves a lot of research and work.
Yeah.
But just in the same way that you can say that because it is hard to discern if that's wrong. But we all know, I mean, anybody who's a kind of a rational thinker is saying, you just made that up. You absolutely just made that up. I don't believe that for 1 second. But like, how could I actually prove him wrong when he says that? That's kind
Yeah.
of that seemed to be his shtick. But then he would just get into the most just elaborate things talking about aliens. We're going to get into that because the alien psyop is accelerating. It's getting ramped up. So obviously people like this
Sure
are
is.
probably
Yeah.
just, he's like that guy, he's that guy who's behind the
Behind the
tree.
tree.
He's like, yep, we're going to talk about some
Licking his
aliens here and
lips
I'm going to
and
relate it to all my research into all the things I've looked into. Oh, it's a mess. There was even another guy on there and I'm not going to throw shade at his name. So you guys, whatever. He was saying,
hashtag pray for Billy Carson.
yeah, pray for Billy Carson. Yeah. Demons, bro. That man needs to be delivered. But there was another guy in there. And the funny part is like there was a very sharp difference between some of the people who were up there because a lot of them were like, so like my buddy Luke Caverns, for instance, he's a younger guy and he comes from like a more academic kind of background. He has like a degree in anthropology and stuff like that. He's never worked at a university, but he enjoys like alternative history, but he's still trying to research within the bounds of kind of like maybe more of the consensus, but he's trying to branch out and he's trying to pop that bubble, whatever, to like expand the idea. But either way, he's very well researched. And then you have like a Derek Olson who's a little closer to us, but he's, like, so he has the biblical understanding, and he talks about giants and then Nephilim. He talks about the book of Enoch, and he relates it to the things he finds. But these guys are very careful not to theorize too much past what they've actually researched. And then you have like a Randall Carlson, who was like the headliner. And I really don't like the maybe the younger dryas stuff with it when they start talking about the amount of years, and and they start to get into the Neanderthals, the Denisovans, and they're like they're still kind of using that scientific paradigm. But the point is, I can at least respect that because they are using like actual what the consensus in the science is saying. And then you have these other guys who are talking about just the craziest crap you've ever heard of. There was a panel at the beginning of the presentation where they were asking about there's the idea that they've maybe using LiDAR, they found like a second Sphinx in Egypt that may be buried. And so everybody's asked like what their opinion is on that, whether they've researched it. And then they get to one guy and he starts saying that there's actually a Sphinx on Mars.
Gosh.
And I'm just like, what did you just say?
Yeah.
I thought you might have said that there was a Sphinx on Mars, but I know you didn't say that because that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But yet, like I said, these guys are sharing a stage at the same time, and I'm like, I don't know. It's difficult for me because I wasn't unaware that I would hear things that I didn't agree with. I actually was pretty positive I would.
Yeah.
But
You were
like my
prepared for
goal
it.
was for one to meet some of the people, obviously including Derek and Luke. I really wanted to hang out with them. But the other thing is, I do enjoy listening to, like I said, I always bring up Ancient Aliens because I didn't agree with the theories that they had, but when they start pointing out megaliths and they start talking about different ideas and who built them and how and all that stuff, I feel like you can spit out the bones a little bit. Like maybe you can glean some things that fit with our paradigm. And then, then you can obviously just toss out the things that are nonsensical. And there was a lot of that at this conference. But yeah, when you hear that kind of stuff, I'm just like, oh my gosh, just pray for the grace from God just to give me patience. And
Did any of them talk about the Grand Canyon?
to be perfectly honest, I didn't stay for a ton of it. I mean, me and Brian got an opportunity to just go. I mean, the thing is, the main reason I want to go out there, two reasons. I wanted to meet Derek, and two, it was in Sedona. So I have a fondness for that place. And we did go do some actual boots on the grounds. We saw some ancient ruins, and we were, clearly we're clearly researching meltology. But I didn't stay for all of it. It was really long to be there and to be not,
Yeah.
to be, I'm not saying I'm at these people's level because I don't really know all of them, but like part of me like being there is like to not have a voice on the stage to be able to at least give my theories was, well, slightly difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm sure. It's funny you mentioned Mars. There was this I don't know how many years ago it was. It was a while ago. I don't know if you ever saw it, but there was a show on Hulu called Future Man.
Mm-mm.
And again, a lot of these shows I mentioned I've seen or I saw before I like really dedicated my life to Jesus. So I want to be very clear. Most of these shows aren't anything I've seen recently, and I certainly wouldn't recommend that show to people because there's a lot of very crude stuff in it. But it had the main character of the show is the PETA from Hunger Games, the main guy.
Okay.
Is that his name? PETA? I think his name was PETA.
I think so.
So he was the main guy. Like that was back when they were like trying to like launch him into other movies and different things. And so
I don't think it worked out, did it? Because I don't know if I've seen it.
It was on for a few seasons, but in one of the seasons, the whole point was like somehow I won't go over the whole storyline, but he's like really good at a video game. And these people from the future, this guy and this girl from the future, they come back and get him. And they say the whole reason they released that video game was it was a test. And they were trying to find someone that could help them like change something in the future. and he was like the best player of the game. And
Isn't that kind of
so
like the plot for Ender's Game?
kind of, yeah, it's kind of
Mhm.
similar but very different. And in one of the scenes, Ender's Game was that movie was like that messed with my brain for a minute. But at the end, like I don't know, one of the episodes, they're in this place that's launching ships to Mars. And they're like, there's this station, and it's like there's like this slave colony of humans, and they're like, it's okay, we're taking you to Mars. It's going to be a better place for everybody. It's going to be fantastic, like all this stuff. And they're launching people to Mars. They're in this line. They go through this like area. There's like this whole spaceport inside of Mars. Like everyone's all excited. They go into this chamber. They walk into the chamber. They sit down on this chair that's supposedly going to launch them. The chair opens up, sucks them in, and burns them.
That's
There was no Mars. They're just
plot twist. Well, you know, it's funny too that when I went back to my hotel room the night before
that's
I was
what I
gonna
think
fly
of
out.
anytime someone mentions Mars. I'm like, it's not real, man. It's not it's not like that.
Yeah, when I went back to my hotel room, they had on AMC, they had some Arnold Schwarzenegger movie marathon, and as soon as I
Gosh.
turned it on, it was Total Recall. So in Total
Okay.
Recall, of course, they take out this one guy's consciousness or his memories, and they put in somebody different. Eventually, the plot leads to them going to Mars. And it was just funny in that movie that they had this base on Mars that they really didn't know who built all the stuff there too, and they were saying that the aliens did it.
Interesting.
That's a total aside. And one more thing before we get to some videos. I was going to tell Aaron this before we got on the podcast, but I thought this would be interesting just to see what his thoughts are about this. So a lot of people have told me I should see that movie, Now You See Me. And it's about like 4 different magicians. They're kind of like
Yeah.
street hustler magicians, and then they work together and they rob banks or something. But, you know, in the movie, a lot of they have this kind of undercurrent in the movie about the eye, like the Eye of Horus, the society of magicians that like do actual real magic. And I'm watching this movie, and of course, a lot of it is like we really don't know how they do the tricks. And it, you know, so there's that kind of balance. It's like, is this actual magic they're doing, or is this just an elaborate, you know, illusion? And this is just so funny because when I was getting my plane ticket, it's funny because, you know, if you guys know me on Facebook, my name's Joe Telford. So it's not a mystery what my actual name is. You know, and Joe is short for Joseph. So my actual name is Joseph. But I'm never called that unless it was like a teacher who didn't like me would call me that. You know, even my parents didn't call me that. But my wife was kind of giving me a hard time because we went to the airport one time and I was putting my nickname, and she's like, "That's gonna get it messed up." And so, like, of course, I decided I'm gonna write Joseph, my name, on my, to get my plane ticket. Well, it was spelled wrong somehow. It was actually spelled with an A at the end. And I was starting to get a little weirded out. I couldn't edit it to like go through airport security before I got my boarding pass. And I was worried that I was going to get some static because obviously that's not my name and that's hard to really prove that it is. But then I thought
Josepha?
it's like Josepha is what it looked like on there. And I thought, I don't think that's even a name. So maybe that's not a real issue at all. I've never heard that name. I've never seen that name written ever. And then I'm watching this movie, and one of the characters, I'm thinking this day, and I'm watching the movie, and at one point they pull some lady out of the audience, and her name is Josepha.
No way.
Yeah, Josepha. And I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. And then at one point they were asking her how much money was in her bank account. I checked my bank account earlier that day, and I was like, if it's the same amount that I've got in there, I'm gonna just lose it. I'm gonna flip out on this airplane.
Was it or not?
No, it wasn't. But I was
okay.
But I had that thought for a second, like if that happened, I was like, this is straight up witchcraft. Like, because how could that, like the synchronicity of an event like that, you're like watching this movie where you're like, it is kind of like the never ending story. When you're like,
Yeah.
when Bastion's reading the pages and all of a sudden the book starts talking about him.
Yep.
You're like, I don't know. I mean, I guess you're watching these kind of things, and we do believe that magic and witchcraft is real. And it was just like it was just a kind of a surreal moment. Because I actually was like starting to, I hate to say this, I was starting to believe that maybe there is something about this movie that is that magical.
Belief has so much to do with that stuff. I mean, in the energy that we give it, and the demonic that feeds off of the energy that we give things. And I've had experiences like that, and I've had experiences like that where something like that did trip me out, and then something like digitally was in sync with things in my real life, like to the point where it was like, this has to be a simulation. Like, this has to be a simulation, because what the crap? How could all of these things been moving and all of these gears been turning to lead to this point to get me to right here, to where this is like speaking on my actual life, like in detail? Super creepy. But yeah, I'll tell you, it did feel absolutely demonic, like completely demonic. And I wasn't entirely sober when that kind of stuff happened either. So like, obviously, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
there's multiple factors going into it. It certainly wasn't one of those moments where it was like, is the Holy Spirit trying to show me something? There was no peace in that moment. Like, there was nothing but like franticness and just like, dude, what the heck? So, but the demonic feeds off of fear more than anything else. So if it can get you scared or tripped up about something, like, it's game over, at least for the moment.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was just maybe a window into saying that, I often enjoy watching these kind of movies and don't really think that there's any effect on me. But it did at that moment. It did have an effect. I mean, really, I was literally thinking that day, within hours of watching that movie, there's no person named Josepha. At least I didn't think that there was. And then I watched this movie, and that's what this woman's name was.
That's insane.
This is
Yeah,
really weird. But yeah, luckily, no, it was not. They didn't have the same bank account as me. That would have been even worse. But yeah, let's get into this alien psyop stuff. Disclosure Day. I mean, what are the odds that all this UAP, UFO, alien psyop stuff is getting pushed to the max right now? And Disclosure Day is about a month away. Like that movie by Steven Spielberg, which the trailer was so demonic. But here, check this out. So there's talk about the government talking to pastors to basically tell their flocks about this disclosure.
Why in the world would United States government officials be briefing pastors about aliens?
A large number of pastors that had been invited to go to a certain state to hear some men in the United States government and others share with them a concerning aliens and concerning unidentified flying object spacecraft, that some of the people who were in the meeting were telling us as pastors, you need to prepare your people and you need to get ready to answer them for what you're about to hear being released.
Maybe it has to do with the fact that J.D. Vance says that he believes aliens are demons. And why Trump's spiritual advisor said just a day ago that decisions are being made inside the White House that have left her shaken and deeply fearful about the future. Quote, it's absolutely hell hounding you in every way you can imagine. So let me get this straight. Scientists and UFO experts in the United States and China have all recently mysteriously died or gone missing. And now the government is telling pastors what to tell you about aliens. What could go wrong? As always, I want to hear what you think about all of this down below.
So that pastor, or I don't, is that guy a pastor? He didn't say
Perry Stone.
He didn't say what he learned. He didn't say, it's like, okay, so you went to a meeting for you guys to learn stuff, but like, you're not telling us what you learned. I don't know. Maybe it was just that video. She didn't share that. I'm sure he's saying something about it all, but I guess we were talking kind of before the podcast, and I'm a little confused because I know on the Blurry Creatures podcast, they had a guy on, and him, along with like over 100 different pastors, all got invited to listen to a couple of Green Berets and different people that wanted to blow the whistle on what's coming, disclosure wise. And they wanted to give the heads up to all of these pastors. And out of the hundreds of pastors that they sent invites to, only this guy that was on the Blurry Creatures podcast and one other pastor showed up. No one else showed up. So I don't know, like, it almost feels like this guy or maybe other pastors are talking. It almost feels like they just watched the Blurry Creatures podcast and they're just pretending like they were actually there and not saying anything about it. Or there was a second meeting. But there's like there's already conflicting information on this whole pastors tipping people off thing, because I haven't seen anything about what they're like. What could they possibly be ready to tell everybody that isn't going to compromise what they would have heard in terms of like classified information? And what could they possibly tell people outside of like what we've been telling people?
That it's all BS.
Well, that anything that we're told regarding aliens is going to be demons. It's going to be demonic. It's going to be, they're not from outer space. They're not from, it's going to be very interesting to see how they spin it and to see like what they say. But there's no question things are gearing up. Like we're at a precipice 100% that we've never been at before. And like something's about to give.
Yeah, the funny part about it is when we were starting to talk about it, I remember, I had the guys from Nephilim Death Squad on to talk about their debate with Tim Alberino about this. And that was the first time I really had kind of done a deep dive into like the idea of like why this disclosure stuff has been in the news. And because as soon as I first got on TikTok, I mean, a lot of people were waiting for like something like this to happen. But I want to say that a lot of this originated from a New York Times article from 2017. So since 2017, every year they've been saying like this is going to happen. So like so what they're saying now is really not new. And when they have like these congressional hearings and these guys are saying, they're really repeating similar talking points to that original 2017 article. And the funny thing about that was when somebody actually tried to maybe examine the accounts in that came from that with this program called ATIP, and I forgot what it was. I can't remember the other government program that it originated from, but it was all about that they selectively put points in about this almost to make it more credible. Because what like this thing was really actually was doing was they're researching into Skinwalker Ranch and all this paranormal stuff. So it's like they tried to hide like the stuff that would make the whistleblowers sound kooky in order to give it more credibility. But the main thing is that the groups of people that have been pushing this are the same people that write the books. They're the same people who go on shows like Ancient Aliens. These are the kind of people who they've made a business out of promoting nonsense, basically. So they're not credible. And again, like the main guy that you've seen probably on Fox News and all the major networks, and again was featured in this article, was this guy named Lou Elizondo. And he worked for the Pentagon and he was involved in counterintelligence. So like literally his job is supposedly, right? This is what his job this would be the charter of his job, is to protect our government secrets. And then this guy is the whistleblower for all this stuff. So, it's kind of like the idea that once you're in one of these intelligence organizations, you're never out. I mean, whether like you're a former CIA person. You ever watched a movie or two where they say these people are never out because they're assets of these 3-letter organizations, and then they can be activated again when it's necessary. I mean, of course, that's kind of like the whole idea of like secret societies, because that's basically what these kind of government organizations are like, that you want to be out. I mean, maybe these people actually do want to get out, but no, when they get in, they've given up so much information about themselves and their families where they can't just walk away. So this idea just keeps on being promoted. And I really do think a lot of it is just as simple as follow the money. That a lot of these organizations that are, like Paulina Luna, she's the one, again, we've been talking about her. She was talking about reading the book of Enoch. And she was talking about the idea that these are interdimensional beings, which we believe mostly to be true. But the thing is, they're getting funding by our government to research this stuff. And they're getting funding to research Skinwalker Ranch and crap like that. I don't know. I mean, it does seem like that a lot of podcasters that do stuff like we do, and they've been promoting this idea. So many of them, like I said, the Billy Carsons of the world are behind the tree and they're like, okay, see, we're going to, like, they've been planting the seeds for this stuff for a long time. And that's literally what kind of the goal of Ancient Angels, the movie was that we were watching this psyop play out. And we were saying what they tried to do with that show, Ancient Aliens, is they tried to they tried to insert aliens into our past. Because the truth is, the alien phenomenon is probably in the modern times was only really introduced probably in the late 1800s when they wrote, forgot who wrote the book, but that book called War of the Worlds. And then it became famous through that radio program with Orson Welles. But like before that, like nobody would have, an alien, like what are you talking about? Like nobody would even know what you're talking about. Because in the ancient mythologies, it was gods from the heavens, or then you'd have like these beings like fairies, gnomes, and leprechaun, all these little weird creatures that kind of snuck into people's houses and abducted people. Not little gray aliens or little green aliens.
All of the Native American tribes that don't know each other, that all have, slightly different backgrounds, all of them speak about a creature that comes from underground that looks exactly like the Greys. And they come in and they will literally kidnap people and take them back underground and abduct them, basically. And according to them, the only way to get their, there's no getting them back. There's only getting their soul back.
Oh yeah, that's what we played that clip from that guy who was on Rogan, and they were talking to shaman about aliens. They had no idea what they were talking about, but then they showed him an image of what a gray alien supposedly looks like. And they immediately said, that's some kind of demonic being from inside the earth. And it only came out in a certain type of like starlight or something.
Exactly.
And they abducted people's souls, not their bodies.
But I mean, like, we're at a precipice though, in the sense that, like, I mean, Spielberg doesn't come out with movies very often. And for it to be called Disclosure Day, and I've said for quite some time that I fully believe that they use movies and TV, but like there's been some core movies that they use for disclosure. And for this one to be called specifically Disclosure Day, and here we are a month before, right around, and just a few weeks ago, JD Vance is going on camera saying that he believes that aliens are demons.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Like, what is that play? I can't figure that out.
JD Vance did that Turning Point thing over in in Georgia, and Erica Kirk was supposedly not going because there was death threats.
Yeah, the one where only two cats and a whistle showed up to listen to him.
Yeah. So he says that. I believe that's the same thing he said that on. But what he also did was he said that we should look into Pizzagate. And I was just like, this is like, it does feel like that this is the psyop in the psyop, because they're going to say, hey, fellow conspiracy theorists, I'm one of you guys. I believe just like you guys, whatever your opinions are, those are my opinions. And when he dropped that, it was almost like they're just saying anything to make them seem more relatable, because conspiracy theorists are chic these days, right? Like it seems like that's where, like, the stuff that we were talking about, 5-10 years ago, now
it's trendy to believe it now.
It's not as, like, we were getting maligned for talking about some of the stuff back then. Like, of course, if you told somebody like your neighbor that like 5 years ago, people would have been like slowly like walking away, like, oh, all right, hey buddy, see you later. And now when you have literally the vice president talking about it to like a mainstream conservative audience, like, that's weird. I mean, it does feel like that. Yeah, this is the point where like the Tucker Carlsons and the Candace Owens, they're starting to sound a lot more like us than they ever did before. And it does feel like there's an agenda here. So there's like a Tucker Carlson, from what I've heard him say about the alien disclosure thing, he's said what we've said. I mean, that's what he said. It's almost a little bit like little eerie that he's saying almost exactly, because he's saying that these things come from inside the earth, that they come from inside the ocean, and they're not from Uranus. They're not from Mars. They didn't build a Sphinx on Mars. They're here, but they maybe are not quite here. Just like we were saying about the idea that our eyes see at a certain vibrational level. And so we can't see what do they say, the visible light spectrum? We see like such a very small fraction of it.
Less than 0.5%.
Yeah, it's like these things manifest as physical, but maybe they're not. And actually, that's interesting because to promote the other podcasts, me and Josh have been doing a little bit. We're going to do a deep dive into the Testament of Solomon and talking about when Solomon's interacting with demons. And I think this is where a lot of this demonology comes from, is that book. But I don't know. What are your thoughts, Aaron? Just that, are they trying to co-opt? I mean, they're playing both sides of this, it seems.
Yeah, they're playing both sides. They're trying to, I mean, the simple fact that our vice president is saying that aliens are demons, like, it's so obvious that they're trying to pave the way. And like, the only reason I can think of that he or any public figure that almost inevitably is a part of the dark side behind closed doors, so to speak, would be because they're planning on leading people right to the cliff and off the edge at some point with some kind of theory. Like, what, we don't know the end game yet. All we know is that, like, the way this is shaping up is taking some twists and some turns that I wasn't anticipating. Because why else would he mention all of that if he wasn't trying to rally more people and get more people to follow their leading and listen to the things that they've got to say? Because he could have very easily never talked about aliens being demons.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. He did not have to say that. He didn't have to go there. They didn't have to have that conversation. But it's become so popular. Like, even my fiance sent me a video of, she was like, this is crazy. There was a podcast, I don't know which Kardashians they are. It's the mom and one of the daughters.
It's funny. We're going to get into that a little bit.
Did you see that clip I'm talking about?
No, I'm just saying, it's funny part is, like, the Met Gala was out and I was flipping through all the pictures, and we'll get into that in a minute. But when they got to the Kardashians, I don't recognize any of them anymore.
Yeah.
They all look kind of the same now. It's like, which one is this one?
I never really paid attention to any of them.
Well, at least they looked slightly different back when they had when the show first came out. Now it's like, through all the plastic surgery and all the other weird stuff they've done,
they all look like they
almost look
old,
identical,
including the mom.
They look like they're morphing into aliens.
It's pretty weird, man. But the mom, it was the mom and one of the daughters. They were talking about this stuff. They were talking about aliens. They were talking about NASA, the history of NASA, and discovering the ocean, which I thought was very interesting. They were talking about how NASA stopped exploring the ocean.
That's interesting, because not a lot of people even know that.
Right.
A lot of people, their knowledge of NASA is only, it really began with 1969 in the moon landing. That's all they have memory of or a knowledge of. But yeah, NASA was, interestingly enough, exploring the ocean before they were exploring outer space.
And then all of a sudden they stopped and they shifted gears and started pushing a lie. So one would think that perhaps they ran into something that persuaded them to change their focus. But by all means, we can shift into the Met Gala stuff.
Now, before we do that, it's interesting. You brought up Spielberg, and I think this was Spielberg's first alien movie, was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And what I find interesting is a movie like that. Obviously, this is probably where you get the real idea of, like, what a gray alien looks like. That was probably the first movie they ever really showed something with, like, the bulbous eyes and the big giant heads and slender bodies. He showed like several different creatures in that. But what's interesting about that movie, it was connected with maybe a giant ancient tree that was chopped down. because the movie's all
Interesting.
about them going to the Devil's Tower in Wyoming. So check this out. I found this video. This was interesting.
Devil's Tower is one of the most bizarre rock formations on Earth. For thousands of years, it's been sacred to indigenous tribes, who tell stories of a giant bear clawing down its sides, leaving behind the tower's iconic cracks and columns. Other legends imagine that it isn't a rock at all, but rather the stump of an ancient, colossal tree. Geologists now agree that the tower began as molten rock that cooled deep underground before erosion revealed what we see today. But there's still debate about how exactly this massive tower formed. In the early 1900s, Devil's Tower became the first official U.S. national monument, and decades later, in the 1970s, it became world famous when Steven Spielberg used it as the focal point of alien contact in the now iconic movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. What is clear is that across history, people from all walks of life have been drawn to this strange formation. And although I might be a bit biased, I don't think there's any better way for me to interact with, to connect with, to revere this mystical rock tower than to climb it. All right, so our plan today.
Man, I was just getting excited.
Yeah, that guy's got some good videos. Of course, he kind of teased it with him climbing up it and falling a little bit. That's absolutely
Did you watch
terrifying.
the rest of it? Did you see him getting to the top and exploring it?
No, I didn't get. I watched the video where he fell.
Okay.
But of course, he's putting in his pins or whatever. Like I'm not a. I climb where I don't have to actually have any gear. I'm a little bit afraid of heights. That looked terrifying to do that. But I guess he fell, and a couple of them came out. So like he fell kind of far. But yeah, what do you think about that? I think it's interesting in the way that you had this connection with mountains and gods. All throughout all the religions and mythologies, even going to the one truth we have, the Bible, we have that God was connected with Mount Sinai. He was connected with Mount Zion. And so mountains were synonymous where the earth met heaven. So the gods would come down. You think about Mount Olympus. But then there's the other mythologies about Yggdrasil and like a world tree. And we talked about that a little bit, like in the Norse mythology, there's this world tree, and this is like the different like kind of levels of these different realms are all up in this tree. So the fact that like a Steven Spielberg would try again, it's almost just like Ancient Aliens, where they're going to say it's not actually gods interacting with humanity through these giant mountains or trees. It's actually connected with ET, extraterrestrials. It's aliens are going to come to this. And it's like, because I think regardless if you think it was once an ancient tree or if it is just some kind of natural rock formation, there's a reason why the Native Americans had some kind of legends about this place. And if you go see these kind of places, and that's why I said that's why I enjoyed going to Sedona, there's a feeling, there's a vibe for sure when you go visit some of these places. Like, what was this once? There's something significant about it, and we can't really put our fingers on it. So it almost feels like that a Spielberg, and through all this government psyop garbage, they're trying to put aliens into places that they never were and they don't belong.
Yeah, I mean, first, before I directly answer that question, is there are no other formations in this world that are that big that look like a giant tree stump like that, are there?
No, there's lots of them. There
are that big though?
I want to say that one looks the most clear example of it, but there's lots of weird ones.
I know there's other stump-looking mountains, but I've never seen anything as big as the Devil's Tower.
I think that some of them are actually bigger. They're like the bases of them look huger, but like this one, that one is probably the most defined looking one. Maybe I'm wrong. You guys can let me know in the comments
right.
if there's other examples, but that one is the most clear, definable, like that. It doesn't take much from like a normie to look at that and say, yeah, you know what? It actually does look a lot like a part of a tree.
Because it's so secluded. I'm guessing that there probably are other giant mountains out there that are something similar. They're just not as pronounced, right? Maybe they have brush growing up around them, or they're near other mountains.
Or it's like I said, they're like so big that to get the perspective of it. But that one is really unusual because it even had that kind of big old mound it was on. So it was so elevated with the mound and then the giant tree stump on top of it.
Yeah. I was just thinking when you were talking about like what they're going to try to say or what they're planning on saying, and of course, there's the theory, because that's all we can call it because we don't have definitive proof, that Admiral Byrd's secretary was saying, not Admiral Byrd, I'm sorry.
You're talking about Werner von Braun.
Werner von Braun's secretary was basically saying, when the alien invasion, that he mentioned that when they talk about aliens or when they make alien disclosure or whatever, that's the last step. That's the
final card in their deck of cards they're going to play in their giant Psyop deck.
Right. But I want to kind of like look at it from a different perspective really quick, because I'm just thinking about this right now, but I don't think you'll disagree. And that's that we have to remember that the way our Heavenly Father operates is through faith. So these people have pursued everything but real faith in the one true God. And so he hasn't revealed himself to them the way that they would want something to reveal themselves to them. So from their perspective, they're revealing the truth to us. They really believe this. They really believe these interdimensional, like they really follow these interdimensional beings, aliens, the fallen angels, and their kin. That is their religion. They fully believe that, and they believe all of the lies that they're being told by them. And so they serve a false god. They serve the wrong side of things, and that's because, as humans, it's like we want to see, we want to touch, we want to feel, we want to taste, we want to experience for ourselves. How many times have you seen people? I've seen people talk all the time, like, if Jesus reveals himself to me, then I'll believe him. If he shows himself to me, I'll believe him. If he does, I mean, even in scripture, we saw people having mindsets like that.
Yeah, even
and so
Thomas.
It's like, exactly. So like these when they reveal these things, when they announce these things, I really believe they believe these things. I truly believe they believe these things. So I don't even think that they're not trying to deceive us. They think they're telling us the truth because they want us to worship these things the way that they do. They want us all to fall on our knees and worship these false gods the way that they do. We know that. We already know that that's the end game. That's the end goal. And so it's interesting when you look at it from that perspective, because as believers, I think a lot of believers, they kind of look at this and they're like, they're trying to deceive us. I don't think they are trying to deceive us. They've been deceiving us. But I think when they come out with the disclosure and they finally reveal everything that they see as the truth, they're the ones being deceived ultimately.
Sure.
Like these people in power, they are the most deceived because they think that they're going to get some sort of, they think they have an allegiance towards them for doing the devil's work. And they think that they're going to be like generals in his army in the next life, or in whatever else happens next. And they are the most deceived. And I think it's just really important going into all of this to see all of that and recognize all of that, because it also gives you compassion for the people in the space that are at peer level that don't see things the way that we see them, right? Like instead of having conversations with other people that see it this way and they're buying the disclosure, instead of having conversations with them like, these idiots, how could they possibly see it this way? It's because there's deception from the very top, and that deception keeps going down. It keeps going down. Like our hearts should break for those people. We've got to find ways to love those people and help guide them to the truth. And that's the really hard part, because so many of these people are so stooped in the deception.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you even start, dude?
Well,
Where do you even start?
Well, I think it's that's true, but I also think that there is the faction that know that they're just spitting out BS. So there's
100% there is, yeah.
There's true believers in this. You know, it makes me think of like when Paul's talking about almost there's these kind of two schools of thought. You have like kind of the Greeks who believe in gnosis. So they're more kind of scientific minded. You think about like Pythagoras, and they're trying to explain things through philosophy, and they do have like a more scientific view of the world. And then you have like the people he's dealing with, like these kind of the mystics, kind of like the Jews that Paul's dealing with, maybe more like the Pharisees, that they believe in like that Kabbalah, and they believe in this. They do believe in the spiritual aspect of it. So like whatever you decide you want to believe these beings are, you know, because as a Christian, you would say, yeah, this is a spiritual phenomenon, which would probably line up closer to like what the Pharisees are saying about things. Now, obviously not everything, but then like, here's a good example. A good book I recommend. I recommend you spitting out the bones when you read this book too. It's called The Illuminati by Jim Marrs. And I want to say the book starts off talking about how, start telling the story about the Anunnaki. So a lot of people are probably familiar with them, but if you're not, the Anunnaki are kind of like this tale, this mythology about these gods that came down to the ancient Sumerians. And so these gods came down, and they came from the heavens, and then they did something like genetically engineer humans to be their workers, and they manipulated humans' DNA and that kind of stuff. So in this book, it's saying the elites believe those things were absolutely real, but they weren't referring to them as gods. They believed that these were an ancient race of aliens. So it does line up with that idea of like ancient aliens. But, you know, from our perspective, the Anunnaki story sounds a lot like the Watchers, you know, because genetically engineering doesn't necessarily mean they have a science lab. It means that they could be procreating with humans and creating this different race that we call the Nephilim, giants, all the kind of stuff we're talking about. So yeah, I think that idea is definitely something that still is believed. So these people are still saying that some of them think that they're aliens from different planets, and some of them say, no, these are the gods. You know, it's interesting, like, I remember when they were showing the first images from the James Webb Telescope, and they're all fake. Obviously, all that stuff's all fake. But they were showing like these star clusters that were like, you know, a trillion light years away, whatever they're saying. And these people were waxing poetic about it, almost like a spiritual experience, saying, we came from these stars. And so biblically, stars, angel, kind of being used interchangeably, morning stars. So these people are still using that kind of idea that these are our creators. Even get into like the movie like Prometheus in the Alien franchise, that there was these engineers, these gleaming white, muscular, kind of strange looking beings. They were huge, and they are actually our creators. I think that that's what they believe. And I think that, yeah, they are absolutely deceived, regardless if they are knowingly deceived or unknowingly deceived. They're promoting an idea that eventually these beings being superior to us, you know, if they're angels, then they are trying to, you know, push people away from the truth. And I think that's when you get into that strange stuff. I remember a couple years ago when we had the former podcast called Decoding Babylon, me and Brian were talking about how the Vatican had all these very bizarre ideas about aliens too, that they were talking about that maybe the aliens would need to baptize us because they have not suffered from the original sin from the Garden of Eden, so they weren't here. And just all this kind of real strange stuff about like when disclosure happens, like the Vatican was ready to, I don't know, promote some other kind of idea that obviously it's contrary to what the scripture says. I mean, it's clearly not biblical at all. I mean, again, at the very least, beings that are not from Earth are still bound by God's law and God's will. So
100%.
Jesus did not come to die for angels. He didn't come to die for anybody except for humanity. And, you know, God's son became a man. He didn't become anything else. So like the story, it does revolve around us. I mean, like literally like the cosmos and everything revolves around this place that God created for us. And then God loved us so much that he sent his son to die for us. So regardless of anything else is out there, anything we don't know about, I mean, like we are important. And I think that's the thing that's really twisted kind of with the heliocentric model and like the science. They're trying to push the idea that we're insignificant. Like we're just this one little blip, this one little grain of sand in this infinite universe. And there could be better people than us somewhere else. There could be a multiverse of different us's and infinite amount of places. That's nonsense. And I think ultimately that's the real psyop, is to say that hey, this is why the space stuff is a lie, because it's promoting this idea that Earth is not special. And obviously God's word would tell you the exact opposite. God sits above the circle of the earth, and the earth is his footstool. So like he's not putting it anywhere else.
Yeah, it's all the complete opposite. It's the complete opposite. We are significant, right? Like, why else would they try so hard to make everyone feel insignificant and to make us feel like there's millions of versions of us all over the place and all these different galaxies and all these different. And it's like, no, man, the whole goal is to get everyone to think that they're not special and that we weren't created by him for him. And because once you fully understand all of that stuff, that's when everything starts to shift completely. So let me ask you this. Do you think Disclosure Day, the movie, is the disclosure? Like, do you think that's going to be the official disclosure? Like, do you think they're going to use that as the catalyst for everything?
So I read that book, Behold the Pale Horse by William E. Cooper. So that's about the idea that one day the governments of the world are going to fake some alien invasion. So I believe that's a real thing that likely will happen at some point. Now, is it soon? I mean, I guess I have no idea if it's soon. I mean, that's why I was saying that it seems like that if you really pay attention, which a lot of us have been paying attention, this idea is not new. Like, again, going all the way back to that famous Ronald Reagan speech back at the UN saying that how humanity would put away their differences if there was an alien invasion. So like these seeds were planted a long time ago, and it does seem like it's ramping up, but each year they keep saying like they're acting like one day they're going to just have like a meeting with like an alien and President Trump, like, at the White House. I mean, that's like, I bet you people have believed that. Like at some point they were just going to straight up show aliens, like they were just going to show up. So that has not happened yet. Not saying it's not going to, not saying they're going to go to that level, but it does seem like it's coming. But maybe I'm getting even more cynical at this point. I'm like, they're going to do something next year. Like, you know what I mean? Like this year is going to come and go. Nothing's going to happen. The only thing that I really see through this is like they're promoting this idea of fear and confusion, because that's what it's really about when you're talking about, like, you see that guy Perry Stone, which I guess sounds like a lot like Jesse Stone, the Tom Selleck character, wearing his true religion, his affliction gear. Don't trust a pastor that wears that kind of stuff.
The thick mustache.
Yeah, but you think about it, like, where's like the salient point of all this stuff? Like you're saying, like as a pastor, you should say, don't say anything unless you have something to say. Like maybe you're right. Maybe that was just clipped for that one little thing. But I thought the funny part, me and you were talking before, that they don't need to send pastors into their churches to tell people about aliens anymore. All they have to do is tell one guy, and he makes a TikTok, and now it's been shown to millions and millions of people. And so like that idea, regardless, they don't have to tell they don't have to be in person to tell every local church community. They can just tell this, and then this gets promoted like crazy, even through like the vice president. So I think that's the kind of important thing, is that like we shouldn't worry about that. I mean, obviously we should be aware. And of course, even with the idea of the little season, is this something like that? Are they really prepping because they're continuing to keep this out there because maybe one day a heavenly city might be revealed, and to the normies, it's going to be like It's going to be Thanos. It's going to be the Borg. It's going to be this massive thing that's just floating down. It could be their thing is another planet about to collide with the Earth. But they're going to say it's aliens. So maybe that's the idea, that they need to keep promoting this idea, because one day they're going to have an answer for what shows up in the heavens descending.
Yeah. Because if they're not, obviously, like, if they're serving the darkness, then when God shows up, when New Jerusalem shows up, right? Like when that all shifts, like, they know it's not them. They know it's not their bad counterparts showing up. So they're going to have some bad guy narrative for all of that, for sure. Like, not even a question.
Yeah. So they have to keep this idea out there. It's like, it is like
until that happens.
It's like the magic of like the repetition of like being told this so many times. So they don't even have to tell you on the news that it's an alien, because by then we'll be telling each other it's aliens.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got another alien video real quick, and then we'll switch maybe to the Met Gala.
What if, as a kid, you made a friend with someone you later realized was not of this world? In 1973, on the Isle of Wight, 2 children were playing near Sandown Airport when they claimed they met something that still doesn't sit right more than 50 years later. They said a tall figure emerged from the trees wearing what looked like a clown costume, but not a normal one. Its face was pale and mask-like, with paper-like skin and stiff features. It wore what the children described as a yellow helmet with antennas. Its clothes were oddly mismatched, like an outfit assembled by someone who didn't fully understand human clothing. The being spoke to them slowly through a microphone-like machine and invited them into a nearby hut. Inside, it showed them strange objects, moved around in a way that seemed to defy gravity, and spoke in riddles, saying things like, "I am all colors Sam." The children later described the encounter independently with matching details and insisted that it was not just a person in a costume. Paranormal researchers believe Sam the Sandown Clown could have been an alien, an interdimensional being, or something mimicking human imagery without quite getting it right. Skeptics argue it was a hoax or a misunderstood encounter with an eccentric adult. So, what do you think the children really met that day?
Well, that's certainly not creepy, is it?
Brian's not here, but I'm just going to say it. It's demons, bro. It's demons, bro. That's absolutely demonic. Especially you guys, a lot of people in the audience, we have a lot of crossover between my channel and Paul's channel. Paul being the Nephilim clown guy. Yeah, this thing that's got antennas on its head and also resembles a clown. What is the thing? Like, I'm all colors Sam. It makes me think of that weird movie that where what's his name? Sean Penn went full retard. Remember from I Am Sam?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm repeating what Robert Downey Jr. said in Tropic Thunder, because that's what he was saying. Like, that's why he didn't come home with the Academy Award for that role. What do you think? Do you think that's I mean, I guess that's the thing. It's kind of like a lot of these alien encounters or these things, but when you talk about multiple people experiencing the same thing, like there's they saw something, or at least they thought they saw something.
Do you know how old that story is?
No, I'm not sure. No.
I mean, Brian and I were just talking about this when you guys were here, and like, there's a reason why so many kids have imaginary friends and they see things and they have different encounters, and it's always between like the ages of like 1 and 8, generally between 1 and 10. And it's because, you know, our hard drive is loading all of the data, which is our consciousness, which is being formed by the reality that we live in, by society and all of that kind of stuff. But until they're told how to think and told how to feel and told how to see things, they're just seeing things for what they are. And so, like, the supernatural things, the spiritual things, they're able to communicate with them. They're able to have conversations with them. It's like the same story with every kid. And like, all kids stop having these imaginary friends once they hit 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, because they're embarrassed now, or they've realized like it's silly, or, you know, they know too much about the world we live in society to see things that way anymore. I say all of that to say, this sounds a little different. This sounds like it was something where, you know, because it wasn't just one kid seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
It was multiple kids seeing it. And it sounded to me, the part that kind of shifted things for me was that it was using electronics to communicate with them.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
weird.
sounds
That's
like
weird. Why did it have a microphone thing? It's like a Stephen
That's-
Hawking situation.
dude, that's really weird. Like, and it doesn't sound like it was a human that did any of this, because if it had bad motives as a human, then when it got them to the barn, it would have done something horrible to them, right? Like they would have ended up dead or something. But like that's not what happened. Instead, it was trying to like reveal things to them and show things. It's just really strange. Like, what was the intention? What were they trying to communicate? What were they trying to get to? But it almost feels as though some sort of entity was strong enough to control electronics, or found electronics, or I don't know, man. Maybe some mad scientist built something, and it was like an old school like beta test run of AI, like using demons and electronics to get it to do. That's really freaking weird.
You know what it reminds me of? Of course, it reminds me of a movie. Do you remember in Back to the Future when Marty is trying to convince his dad to ask his mom out to the prom, and he won't go out with her?
Yeah.
And so what he does is he sneaks into his room, and he has the, I guess the Fallout kind of gear, whatever, to protect himself from like radiation. And he's got that big mask on, and he tells him that he's Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan. And remember, he puts, what does he put
Van
on?
Halen?
He puts the headphones. Yeah, puts the headphones on him, and he's blasting. Yeah, Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
And so the interesting part about that movie is, of course, Marty goes back in time, and then he influences the future. And so when he goes back to 1985, things are so different. But then his dad, just like, remember, like right when he comes in the door, they get this delivery, and his dad started writing these science fiction books about aliens.
All because of that one little
encounter with Darth Vader from planet Vulcan.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying like that, like if these demons start to manipulate people, that eventually people start to think it's like their idea. I mean, that's why I said you go all the way back to Crowley when he's talking about this entity he encounters named Lamb. And he's the one who's famously said that today we call them aliens and demons. One day they're going to call them something else. And then one of Crowley's kind of disciples was L. Ron Hubbard, who started Scientology. But before he started Scientology, you know what he did? He wrote lots of science fiction books. So then he created this religion that's based on science fiction. And it's all the same kind of stuff. Like I said, again, it's like, you call them gods, L. Ron Hubbard calls them aliens. It's like the same stuff.
Yeah, dude. I was just thinking to myself, something you shared with me, and without going into detail of our personal feelings about him, just to talk about this one topic, it just made me think of the fact that, like, remember you were talking about how Billy Carson was speaking at the conference, and he fully believes that not only can we manipulate and change the future, but we can manipulate and change the past.
Yeah, there was a guy there.
People actually think that.
Yeah, there was a guy that, well, for one, Billy Carson, he was like emceeing this Q&A, and he was saying that, and this, I started to get really like kind of like sick hearing him talk about this stuff, but he was saying that everybody who's here has manifested this. Basically, like your idea of like getting the idea to come, then eventually getting the ticket, getting on a plane, getting in a car, and then going to this event. Everybody's manifested this. And then so the other guy was talking about a Sphinx on Mars, as dumb as that sounds. He was talking about manifesting and like going into these loops or these kind of like portals to basically, he was acting like he was kind of channeling something. So then Billy piggybacks off that idea where he's saying that, yeah, this is actually a real scientific phenomenon. Like, and he was talking about how he studied at MIT and everything. And I'm just like, okay. And then he starts to say that manifestation can change the future, but he's actually saying that manifestation, you can actually go in these loops and you can change the past. And of course, I was going to ask him how can I manifest that I never showed up to hear you say that
How
dumb
can
thing?
I manifest my fellow self out of here?
How can I change the idea when I say, maybe it'll be smart to sit around and listen to Billy talk for a minute. I could have just said, "Whoop, maybe I should go hiking."
But I mean, it feels like at some point in time, somewhere along the line, someone has developed something that leads a group of people to believe that they've been able to effectively go into the past and change the present.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that's just science fiction. I'm also not saying that it's true. Like, I'm also not saying that they've actually been able to figure that out. But if there's one thing that I feel like we don't know enough about, any of us, none of us, it's the whole time thing, dude. It's
Time. Well, that's the thing is like when we showed that one video about the fourth dimension and like us being 3D entities and seeing only like a part. That's the one thing that we cannot see really past is the time. Only God can see the whole picture. But yeah, it almost feels like that angels possibly can see more of the picture than we can, or they can see possibilities. I mean, even I watched that. If you watch a lot of like kind of Greek mythology type stuff and, kind of a lot of ancient mythology stuff. I watched that show called the Blood of Zeus, and they were showing like these threads of time. And so like these kind of soothsayers, these sorceress witches or whatever, were talking about how, even like what Yoda's saying, like the time is always moving. It's unclear. So like they see possibilities of time, but they can't see the whole picture. They can't, God is sovereign. He's the only one who can know and give people free will at the same time. Like
Yeah,
they have
that's for
to,
sure.
they have to manifest. Like, they have to, maybe they manifest the idea in your head and then you manifest it to happen. And so they can help move this story along.
Well, why else would there be such heavy manipulation on society? Like, why else would they try so hard to brainwash and so hard to manipulate? You even see that amongst interpersonal people, right? Like you see like the super controlling people that want a certain outcome. So they try to ramrod their way through things and get everyone to believe a certain thing because they want a certain outcome. Like that would make perfect sense of things. Like that's why they've got their grips on people, and that's why they do what they do through movies and TV and just every social aspect imaginable. It's because they don't know the future. They can't see the future completely. They see
they're
possibilities.
they are manifesting through us.
Yeah.
Because it's like if they get you to believe in an idea and they get you to, like I said, I think that's why they play both sides. Because they really want you somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? Like that's usually they're forcing you on one paradigm so harsh on either side. So then they're forcing you into the place they actually want you to go. And then through that, like their plans do ultimately, again, it's all going to lead to their ruin if they're outside of God's will, but that's how they work.
For sure.
You know what? I was going to switch to the Met Gala and we'll still get to that, but I thought this was an interesting transition because we were talking about time and the manipulation of the past. Maybe the Mandela effect.
Hey, check this out.
She's a sucker. She thinks she's a finalist in Ed McMahon's Publishers Clearinghouse.
You're just jealous because I'm gonna be a millionaire.
6 Mandela effects mentioned in the 1990s sitcom The Nanny. In this clip here, you clearly hear them say, Ed McMahon, Publishers Clearinghouse, knocking on the door. In this timeline, Ed McMahon did not work for Publishers Clearinghouse. Ed McMahon apparently worked for American Family Publishers. But a lot of people remember him working for Publishers Clearinghouse. Why would these sitcom writers write something that was clearly untrue? That's just the first one.
Food? Aye, big mistake. If you feed them, they will come.
In this clip, you clearly hear the reference from the 1989 movie Field of Dreams. A lot of people, including myself, remember, if you build it, they will come. Like quoted in this clip. But in this timeline, the actual line is, if you build it, he will come, not they.
Miss Fine, you've got some splaining to do.
Lucy, you got some splaining to do. This is from the 1950s American sitcom I Love Lucy. Lucy's husband, Ricky Ricardo, would say, Lucy, you got some splaining to do, like referenced in this clip. In this timeline, didn't say it. Nope, it was never said in the TV show. No, Ricky Ricardo never said, Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
But I'm not woman with girts. It's one thing to think you're Madonna. It's a whole nother thing to wear your Depends on the outside.
Another one, Depends, the adult diaper. A lot of people remember Depends with an S, like it said in the clip. But apparently in this timeline, it's always been Depend, no S. Even though we all clearly remember Depends, apparently it's always been Depend, no S in this timeline. Huge. This is a huge Mandela effect. 1983 Risky Business with Tom Cruise. We all distinctly remember this scene. Socks, white button up, sunglasses. Timeline, he didn't wear sunglasses. Nope, Tom Cruise never wore sunglasses in this scene.
I just made a peanut butter sandwich courtesy of my mishpacha, George Washington Carver.
George Washington Carver inventing peanut butter. This is a Mandela effect, but in this timeline, he did not. Apparently that was never stated anywhere. Apparently we all are making this up. George Washington Carver was a scientist in the 1900s and he developed over 300 products using peanuts. Peanut butter is not one of them apparently. I remember being taught that. I know I was taught that. Those are the top 6 Mandela effects mentioned. If any of these affected you, it's us.
So
that's pretty crazy, man. A few of those, like, I'm 100% on board with.
What? Wait, so George Washington Carver came up with 300 different things using peanuts, but peanut butter wasn't one of them?
That's so wild, dude.
Like, wouldn't that kind of be like one of the more obvious ones? You smash them
like
up.
The first one? Like the first one? Just keep going. Just keep mashing them and see what you come up with.
What were the other 300?
That's like a whole podcast in and of itself, dude. We'll have the deep dive.
Yeah, we're going to do the top 300 ways George Washington Carver used peanuts.
That's insane.
And not one of them was peanut butter. Yeah, the one that was really tripping me out was the the one that Lucy, you got some splaining to do, because that's definitely
I 100% remember hearing that. I've said it. I've quoted it before.
I mean, that, so my parents were of the generation that they watched I Love Lucy. My mom loved kind of those old sitcoms, so I would watch them because she was watching them. I definitely remember him saying that.
Not even a question.
She would get in trouble all the time. I thought that was something that was said regularly on the show. It was like, it was so much that it became a meme that people said it. Lucy, you got some splaining to do. That never was spoken in that show.
So much so that it ended up on another sitcom. Like, yeah, that's insane. I completely remember that. I absolutely remember that. The one that didn't make the list, and dude, I'm just telling you, it was Berenstain Bears, not Berenstain Bears. Undoubtedly it was Berenstain.
the Bears wore little hats in your
Dude,
memory.
That was the reason I remember that so well is because that was one of the first, like, I started reading early and I started spelling early, and I remember when I learned how to spell that word specifically. But yeah, dude, that stuff's trippy, man.
The Ed McMahon one is weird too, because I definitely remember it being Publishers Clearinghouse.
Yeah. No, I'm willing to be wrong about my memory on that one, but it seems as though, I mean, we all remember the commercials, dude, watching like TGIF and whatever shows we were watching grow up. We all remember seeing the commercials of someone getting that check and people showing up. And
what did he say? It was American Publishers?
Dude, was it not Ed McMahon showing up at their door with the check? Wasn't that was like part of the whole shtick? Because they were like, as soon as the door opened, they saw him with the check and they're just like, oh my gosh, they knew what time it was as soon as they saw him. That's what I remember. I'm not saying I remember correctly.
No, that's the thing with the Mandela effect. There's too many things for it to have no merit at all, but I do try not to rely on my own memory about things so much. even like the whole like Luke, I'm your father.
Yeah.
I remembered it. I remembered it the way that it said is, no, I'm your father.
Yeah, I remember it. The way that they say it is also.
You know, it's interesting. Like that would be something that would make sense why you would change it for like a meme in another movie referencing it, because no, I'm your father actually doesn't resonate as much when you say Luke, because then you're tying it to Star Wars. But still, there's so many of them out there that it seems like there's too much smoke for there to be no fire.
Well, here's a common one that is very interesting to figure out. It's like, we are definitely being publicly gaslit on this one. And I don't understand what the explanation is, but the cornucopia for
Yeah,
Fruit of the Loom,
that one, the Fruit of the Loom one is, I definitely remember the cornucopia.
100% there was a cornucopia. And there are people that still have Fruit of the Loom products with the cornucopia on it. Like, there are plenty of people that have shown their pictures of items that they own from the 90s with the cornucopia on it. So, like, it's been proven that the cornucopia did exist, even though they say themselves they never had a cornucopia in their logo.
So weird.
So why would they do that? Like, why would they publicly lie and publicly say, like, why, like, intentionally gaslight everybody? It's like, people literally own your products, man, with the cornucopia on it. Like, what is even the point?
Yeah, that's the thing, especially when you get into movies and TV shows, because we talked about this a couple weeks ago, that all this stuff is now streaming, right? So like we don't really own, I mean, most people don't own physical copies of like VHS tapes and DVDs anymore. I mean, some do, and actually I still have them, but I don't even have anything to play them anymore. So unless I want to go buy a old antiquated movie player, like I won't ever watch them again. So if you think about like if Risky Business is streaming on Netflix, they could obviously manipulate it if they want to.
Easily. Yeah, easily.
So they could, I mean, obviously you think about with AI, whatever, they could just say, let's recreate this scene without him wearing glasses on. Now, why would they do that? Maybe it is. Maybe it's just gaslighting. It's a situation now where they say that didn't happen like that. And when it comes to like a silly movie, well, it really doesn't affect anything. But it does feel like with like world events. I mean, the whole thing with like the Mandela effect, the reason they call it that is because people remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison. And then later they said that he actually didn't die in prison.
Exactly.
So that's weird. I mean, so like that seems like a more historical, important detail than whatever the Berenstain or Berenstain Bears were. I mean, that's irrelevant to the future of whatever we do. But when you're talking about manipulating past events to that kind of level, I mean, that's the thing. Like newspaper articles can be destroyed. Obviously, you can, there's archives of things that you could maybe go find. But at this point, like the things are being scrubbed and when everything is digital, there's obviously somebody who can change any kind of detail they wanted to. And maybe this is just maybe this is kind of a soft disclosure. This is a soft op that is going to eventually be like, it's not affecting, like we're the first generation to really experience it, but it'll get to a point where total events are completely changed. Like that didn't happen the way you remember it happened. And then your kids are going to be like, okay, boomer, like maybe your memory's just not so good.
Well, what's interesting about it is like the thought that we can change the past. But like, let's just say that like the CERN Hadron Collider is capable of changing things. It almost feels like it's capable of changing things from our past, but not actually in our past. Because if it was changed in our past, then our memories wouldn't still remain of those things.
Yeah, well, that's literally the plot in Endgame. Because they make a very clear point to say that. Because they say movies like Back to the Future, as they gave that example, that Marty McFly goes into the past and he's changed 100% of the people in the future. Like, so
Right.
it's not like Marty McFly gets back to the present, and then everybody's just dumbstruck by like, what happened here? No, their consciousness is totally like in a linear way, like their past has changed
It
their
morphed
future.
with the past.
And
Yeah.
same thing would happen with like the Terminator franchise. Terminator, you go back and they're trying to kill John Connor, so then the future doesn't take place. So the Marvel Endgame franchise, they say specifically that's not how it would actually work, because eventually this present will still be the present, and then you'll go back into the future, and like, so everybody else will see that things are different, but they'll remember them differently because their past has already taken place. So that's exactly what they're talking about. And yeah, that's what the movie's about. It's like saying that through the quantum realm, and that's what they're doing at CERN. Like, they're messing with quantum particles. They're messing with like the building blocks of the things that make up our physical reality. And through that, it's breaking up weird parts of our time. That's what they say anyways.
Speaking of changing the way people see things and remember things, I'm not trying to change anyone's opinions on this person, and I'm certainly not trying to disparage them. But I will say, when I saw this
right here is a movie called The Little Prince, starring legendary actor and dancer Bob Fosse. The movie came out in 1974, but some of his dance moves will strikingly resemble the man with the gloved hand. In the movie, he played a snake, trying to convince a young boy to take his snake bite, all the while hypnotizing the boy with his dance moves, laying the foundation for the king of pop, along with other dance styles, to become the greatest entertainer of all time. Bob Fosse, Gene Kelly, and Fred Astaire have been noted to be some of his influences, along with James Brown.
Wait, is that real? Is that real?
No, it's the noises. The noises aren't real. The sound effects were obviously added on top of it. But yes, that's a real movie.
Man, I'm looking that up.
Yeah, look it up.
Bob Fosse
1974, dude.
Movies. Okay, I'm gonna look that up. So the movie came out in 1974.
Yeah, and evidently the plot line is he's a snake, and he's trying to get some young boy to willingly take a snake bite. I mean, that sounds very ominous.
What was the movie called?
Little Prince.
Okay, Little Prince. Okay, I found it. Yeah. So somebody's gonna have to watch this movie to verify if that's actually accurate.
Those moves, though, dude, 100%.
So
were hijacked, man.
I knew a white man invented those moves.
Those sound effects.
That's crazy, man.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah, that
the
is
hand
insane.
movements, like everything. I saw that and I was like, no way.
Well, it was
dude.
down to even like the way he wore his shoes and his socks.
Yep. The foot poses, all of it.
That is crazy. Especially because the Michael Jackson movies out in theaters right now, and everybody's watching that.
Right.
Wow. You know what I mean? Gosh, it seems like a very common thing. Like, even, do you ever see that clip of, like, everybody remembers Biggie Smalls, right? The Notorious B.I.G. And then there was some other rapper around the same time that Biggie like jacked his whole style and his cadence, and like that song Juicy, like this guy had almost identical song. And then the story goes is that P. Diddy, Puffy or whatever, probably gave him not near enough money to just take that, and then Biggie took his whole persona. Same thing probably with Tupac. Tupac, obviously, well, we don't know that he stole his act from somebody else, but Tupac was like some gay theater kid, and now
he
became
zesty.
Thug Life.
Yeah, no, he was zesty as it gets. and then all of a sudden, it's nothing. I mean, we quote this all the time. There's nothing new under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
But especially when it comes to music and just performance in general, there's very little that's completely original. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that nothing is original anymore.
No, well, I mean, famously, like the origins of like rock and roll, it came from what like the early rock stars stole a lot of their stuff from blues. So they took a lot of people, a lot of music from like black people who had soul, and they like Led Zeppelin and bands like that. They took it, like obviously famously Elvis. Probably a lot of the stuff that Michael Jackson did was kind of like the way his hips and his knees moved were probably like Elvis type moves, wasn't it?
Sure.
So like a lot of
Yeah.
it seems like it's what they've done is like what you see a lot in modern music too, is they remix stuff or they sample different tracks. So you think it's like a new thing you're hearing, but you find out like the beat in this song is identical to a beat in a song from like the 60s or 70s.
Yeah, I mean, like Jason Derulo, like he got big on the back of Imogen Heap, who created that what you say,
Yeah.
that you only meant well. So that song had been out for like the longest time. All he did was like sing on top of it. That's it.
Or like Ice Ice Baby, where he took he took Under Pressure by David Bowie, and it was like he claimed he added like a little tick in the song or something, but it's like it literally is the exact same song, and he's just rapping over it.
Yeah, and so then like what's happening is the artists that are trying to be like really, really, really original, all they can really do is find a combination that's used not as often or not as much as other artists, right? Or they've got to find like some kind of weird shtick, like the White Stripes, you know, like it was just guitar and drums. There was no bass. There was no, like, all you can do is really like find like a different formula that's not as common as everyone else, and or use, you know, but like, dude, every chord progression has been written in. Every combination of instruments just about has been used before. So it's
Billy
it all
Corgan's
just
done
recycles,
all
man.
of it already, so you're going to copy him.
Well, he's the original writer for everything that's in existence for music as we know it. So
exactly. All right, you want to see a funny one?
Sure.
How about an old commercial?
Is it about dolls?
No.
Hey kid, would you like some drugs? The first one is free.
Want to check out my van? I got some candy.
Hey kid, want to join our gang and spray paint under a bridge?
No! Bug off, man. I'm going roller skating. I want to be addicted to roller skating, not crack. Because we roller skate today, we will go to college tomorrow. Prison is full of people that have never roller skated.
I'm Brad Armstrong, owner of Roller Kingdom in Reno, Nevada, keeping your kids off the streets since 1999.
I say no to drugs. I say no to gangs.
I say no to unplanned pregnancy.
I say no to meth. I say no to reefer. I say yes to roller skating.
Man, this Roller Kingdom is really putting us out of business.
You said it, man. This deal sucks.
But you know what? Maybe we should give up this life of crime and start
roller skating.
I don't know that I've ever seen a commercial that made me feel more uncomfortable than that one. that made me
What
feel
a positive
so
message,
disgusting. That made me feel so disgusting. Is that place still open? Because if it's closed, then I'm guessing all the crime's back on the streets now.
Yep, that kid turned to meth after the roller skating ring got put out of
like,
business.
where's that guy that was offering me the first one free? I can't roller skate anymore.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. You know, let's watch one more funny one before we get to the Met Gala.
Oh, gosh.
We talked about clowns earlier. You know, clowns are demonic, so I don't mind seeing them in pain. Let's put it that way. Spoilers.
accidentally stepped on a unicorn horse.
Yep. I don't know what they were selling in that commercial, but I'm buying it. They let me know.
He's just staring at them, screaming at the top of his lungs. Oh my gosh. Yeah, clouds are
Excellent. Okay,
creepy.
let's talk about the modern day Hunger Games that is the Met Gala. It is, I mean, I guess the Met Gala is older than that movie series, but gosh, it's so in your face on how absurd this thing is now. And here's just one example. I'm not gonna bore you or gross you out by all the different examples.
Jordan, there you are. There you go. Jordan, look straight ahead in the middle. Thank you. See you at the mat. Have fun. We'll see you there.
All right, I want to hear an alternative explanation of what that might have been other than just a demon coming out of this person and influencing their brains. If it's not that, what else is it?
There is no other explanation. There's nothing else. It was that was like the cliche demon on your back and trying to blind their vision, like literally like putting a hand in front of their face. Who's Jordan Roth?
I don't know.
Was that a guy?
I have no idea. You know, that's the thing. I was looking at. I actually went to one of the picture carousels, and I looked at 258 pictures of all the different weird stuff they were doing at the Met Gala.
You got a lot to say then. I didn't see a single thing about this one.
It's not any different than it has been, because I think that's the weird part about it is like that. I don't know that anybody ever thought this was normal, like what they do at the Met Gala. But I thought the interesting part about it for me was just like the questions about, like, some people dress very normal. You know, like some guys just showed up in like a black tie. You know, they just showed up in just a 3-piece suit. Some ladies just showed up in a regular gown to this thing. Like, what is the Met Gala? Is this like some kind of art exhibit? Like, what did they even do there? All I really know about the Met Gala is that it's where celebrities dress up like devils, demons, witches, any kind of, I wouldn't even say anything you could imagine, because most of the things they dress up as, it would never been a thought that pop in your head to dress up like that.
It's just like the epitome of self worship. You know, it's just the epitome of excess and self worship. I looked up Jordan Roth, so that person. I was just curious because I would say 90% of the people that probably walk up those stairs or on their red carpets or whatever, I've probably never heard of before or seen. But Jordan Roth is a prominent Broadway producer and the creative director of ATS Entertainment, widely recognized for transforming the theater industry through innovative productions and business strategies. Born in 1975 in New York, to billionaire real estate developer Stephen Roth, of course, and theater producer Daryl Roth. He has built an estimated net worth of $340 million. So a theater person. So that kind of makes sense. But
okay, I think I might have done a quick little research, and this is a theory. I'm going to just read. So here's what it says. The Met Gala it's officially known as the Costume Institute Benefit. It's widely considered the most prestigious fashion event in the world, often called the fashion's biggest night out, or the Oscars of the East Coast, a high-profile fundraiser for the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Costume Institute in New York City. So it's some kind of a benefit, whatever. But interesting, the timing of it, it's always the first Monday in May. And I wonder if it has anything to do with this. And this, I could be wrong about this, but probably not. Is that if you've ever seen kind of like the pagan calendar, where, like, you know, the different times of the year they celebrate these different kinds of pagan, you know, holidays or whatever. Well, the one is celebrated at the beginning of May is Beltane. And this was just a shot in the dark. And so Let's see if we can read a little bit about Beltane is the Gaelic May festival, making the beginning of summer. It's traditionally held May 1st or about midway between the spring equinox and summer solstice. Historically, it was widely observed in Ireland, Scotland, the Isle of Man. In Ireland, the name of the festival is both Irish, English, and it says it is one of the 4 Gaelic seasonal festivals along with Samhain, is it Imbolc, and Luganajad, blah, 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 whatever that is. Let's see if it says anything about how they celebrate it.
I mean, that picture says, go back up to that picture. Like, I can't even read what you're writing, but. Interesting. Giant bonfire.
I wonder if they dressed up. Well, look at those costumes they're wearing in that.
Yeah, with horns.
Does it say anything about wearing costumes? Okay. Historical customs. It says, let's see, blah, blah, blah. But it says, Beltane, wait. The goal of many Beltane rituals was to appease. Wait, where does it say this? Let me go back. Oh, so here you go. The Oza Sea, often referred to as spirits or fairies, were thought to be especially active at Beltane as at Samhain, and the goal of many Beltane rituals was to appease them. Most scholars of the Awasi are remnants of pagan gods and nature spirits. Beltane was a springtime festival of optimism, during which fertility ritual again was important, perhaps connecting with waxing power of the sun. Now, what does it say?
It's not a stretch. That's the bottom line. It's not a stretch to think that they're related.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess point being is that you did see people wearing all kinds of interesting costumes celebrating that Gaelic satanic festival.
Who does it benefit, though? Like, who's getting the money from it all?
The Costume Institute.
Right?
Well, look, so what it was basically saying was that this Awasi or something like that almost sounds like Aiwas, which that sounds like the demonic deity that Crowley was speaking to, that were spirits or fairies. Same thing when you get to Samhain. Spirits or fairies being either angels or demons, and the rituals are meant to appease them. So then you see that woman wearing that very bizarre costume that some kind of spirit looks like it's coming right out of her back and like controlling her mind. Is that not likely where... Is this the same thing? Is this the same thing, except this is how they celebrate it in New York City?
That's pretty wild. So check it out. So the Met Gala raises money for the Metropolitan Museum of Art Costume Institute. So it's specifically just for them. But it says on here, which houses a collection of over, guess how many? 33,000 pieces of clothing, jewelry, and accessories that document fashion history. The fund supports exhibitions, acquisitions, and operations of the Costume Institute, which is the only department at the Met that must be entirely self-funded. So a really good cause.
I see.
It's all going to a really good cause. There's less people on the street struggling and hungry as a result of last night's Met Gala, that's for sure.
Okay, I did look it up. So it says, while Beltane doesn't have a mandatory costume in the way Halloween does, it's highly visual festival where dressing up is a major tradition. Because it celebrates the return of summer, fertility, and fire, the attire usually reflects those themes. If you're attending a festival ritual, here's what you likely see. Flower crowns, the green man, antlers and horns, and meaningful colors, white, red, green, and yellow and gold. So yeah.
Sounds like midsummer.
So yeah, that it probably has some kind of relation to that, especially because they celebrate it at the exact same time every year at the very beginning of May. Probably has something to do with that. Oh, and here's one of the things that I'm not trying to be insensitive here, but I mean, this is about as woke gets that I've ever even heard of. So this was something that happened or this something maybe was announced at the Met Gala.
Okay.
This is right here. It's Erin Ross Phillip, the first Black transgender woman with quadriplegic cerebral palsy signed to a major modeling agency, arrives at the Met Gala.
Hold on. Do you have a way of making that bigger?
Does that work?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know if I should say anything about that, but that's
no, I don't even have, like, I don't even know what my thoughts are on that. I don't even know what to think about that. I mean, like, on one hand, I'm like, that's awesome that they're including someone that wouldn't be able to, like, walk down a runway or do something, like, and normalizing that. Like, I think that's great. I don't think there's anything negative or bad about that. But, like, I don't know, man. Of all of the things you could be, I don't know, dude. It would make me feel a lot better if they said that, you know, like, a half of the proceeds or a chunk of the proceeds was going to fix, like, whatever condition has that in that place in the first place, right? Or, like, people that are out there suffering from the same conditions or whatever the case is. But instead, it's like they're trying to thrust even the people that are suffering from those conditions into that lifestyle. It's just backwards. You see what I'm saying?
But
Like, it's all
yeah. I
backwards.
mean, the thing is, these people who are involved in, like, the fashion industry, I mean, that's a really dark rabbit hole when you go down.
It is.
I mean, the movie Zoolander, it's very silly, but what they're showing you in that movie, that's like a real phenomenon. It's like the MK Ultra that's happening to these models. And yeah, this is like intelligence agencies use these models as assets for blackmail. I mean, that's like one of the dirty little secrets about the modeling industry. I want to say it's like that. Like, what better way to influence a powerful man than some kind of a supermodel honeypot, right?
Totally.
And then it goes both ways. Of course, not all of them are into pretty girls. They might
Or
be
to get them into like get them into private locations, get them into like someone else's palace in another country. Like, of course.
Right, exactly. So so a lot of these models were like actually prostitutes. Like, they use that and not even just that. Yeah, so that's in the theme of Zoolander, that they MK Ultra Ben Stiller's character, Derek Zoolander, and he's supposed to assassinate the leader of Malaysia or something.
Yeah, the prime minister of Malaysia.
Yeah, of course. But it's funny, like, they show this stuff like it's a big joke, but like, he's activated when they play that song "Relax," right? As soon as that's going, the guy's mixing it up, and then instantly he's gone.
Jumps on the table and throws a knife at him or whatever.
They're showing you that he's a Manchurian candidate. So, like, all that being said, this woman or man, whatever, I'm not sure exactly which, this crippled person, I mean, I don't think that's ableist to say that. This person is probably had to experience a lot of horrific things if they're getting to the level of being signed to this top modeling agency.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And who knows how much of which was against their will. But yeah, man, that whole industry is dark. It's very dark. Isn't it funny how we watched some of those movies when we were younger and we just saw them as comedy? And I've been like, because I don't trust. I just want to say, I know we talk about a lot of like TV shows and movies on here, but I pray that all of you are having extreme discernment when you're choosing what to watch or what to listen to or whatever the case is, because a lot of these shows are very subtle. You know, they'll seem totally normal, and then out of nowhere, boom, there's a literal spell or an incantation or something horrible in the midst of them. But I've actually really enjoyed going back and watching some of like the classics, like from when we were kids,
Mm-hmm.
when I was too young to understand what the premise was or what the storyline was or whatever the case was, and going back and watching it, and it kind of ruins them a little bit too, because like I don't really like the word magic, but that nostalgia is kind of out the window. My fiance and I watched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids a few weeks back, and it was
what
one
did
of
that
those
reveal?
movies. Well, it didn't really reveal anything like that we talk about. It didn't really reveal anything that like there was no I mean, like the programming was very obvious in it, like what they were trying to program people to believe, like the husband was a total wuss and a total like wimp and
Moron. Yeah,
sissy.
he was kind of like the classic 80s, 90s persona of just a moronic husband, and then
the wife was
wife's
the
like
one that wore the
wisecracking
pants
and smart,
and
and
makes the money, and she's like doing all of the things, and then all of a sudden, he brings the kids back and he's sexy again. Like she sees him as like, valuable now at this point. But like,
isn't it
so there was
interesting? Isn't in the movie? Doesn't the apple have a play in how his shrink ray works?
Absolutely, yeah.
So what do you think?
Apple is
the apple? The apple's
That's
what
pretty
does it?
interesting.
The
That's true,
knowledge?
actually. That's very true. Yeah, literally, it's the apple that gets in the way of the laser and makes it so that the laser starts working. But outside of that, it was, I just only brought it up because we recently rewatched that and it was really fun. It was really fun to watch that again. But so a lot of them are cheesy. The special effects weren't there and like all of that. But it's very interesting to go back and watch some of these older movies, and the agendas were different. But it's so easy to go back and watch these movies and see that there definitely was an agenda.
Always. Yeah, again, that's the art. The art is to change your consciousness in a certain way. But yeah, you're right. Like that, it was. Yeah, who knows exactly what the purpose was then? But yeah, it's clearly, it's like they're way more just heavy handed with it now. It's like it's not very subtle. Like back in the day, it was like there's a lot more layers. Here's a good example. As you said that, this is actually a perfect transition to that. Check this out.
Do you remember that movie from like 2000, the comedy Josie and the Pussycats with Rachel Lee Cook?
I read for that movie.
Did you?
Like
Because I thought there's a couple roles. I think
Breckenmeyer role. Go ahead.
The deep state basically creates a pop star band.
That's what the movie's about?
And they use the music to mind control and disrobe people's mental faculties.
Dude, my brain. I remember auditioning for that movie and not looking at it, not reading the script, because I'm not going to read the whole script for a smaller part. And when it's on my sides, and then I'm going, it was like, they're going to make Josie and the Pussycats. It was like a big, to do and to get. And the plot of that movie is so crazy.
It is.
But it's dressed up through puff and pink and frilly things and comedy and slapstick and music and oh my God.
The deep state.
Fact that the deep state made something so light and airy just proves our point.
How about that? Do you remember that movie?
I remember it coming out. I never saw it.
I think I watched it once. It was very forgettable, but that's interesting. I mean, of course, you have to think a level above that, because if that movie's showing you that these feds are putting together a band for some kind of a mind control thing, they're obviously emulating real bands. Like is that like the Spice Girls? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, is that kind of what they're trying to show? The Pussycat Dolls, right? Like that came out too. And, but then all the boy bands, like that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying is like those bands were, because most of those stories, those bands they didn't know each other in a lot of cases. They didn't know each other. Maybe like one guy knew another guy, but those bands were like totally just some sleazy producer just puts them. What was the one guy who put together like In Sync? Was it some star or something?
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, like the stories are the same. It's like these bands were just made just for, what we thought before was probably just making lots of money. But there's always more than one agenda. Money might be part of it, but yeah, it's a lot more than that.
It's way more than that. And you actually see that a similar story more recently in the movie K-pop Demon Hunters. So the girls in the band K-pop Demon Hunters, they're actually they're demon hunters. Like they slay demons. But then there's this boy band that pops up in the movie, and they literally are demons. Like, they make a deal with the devil. These boy bands make a deal because the devil's not getting enough souls anymore. And they actually show the way that, like, their music creates these energetic frequencies over the communities. It's really bizarre. Like, I read somewhere that the creator of the movie was a Christian, and that would actually make sense, because when these girls are spreading a positive message, of course, they don't say the name of Jesus in the movie because it wouldn't be a box office smash if they did. But they're creating this positive, uplifting music, and it's like showing you what it looks like in the spirit realm. It's showing you like the sound waves that are going over the city and like protecting the city. It's like showing territories spiritually. And then these boys come into play, and they make a deal with the devil because the devil was not getting enough souls anymore. So they're like, well, we'll start a boy band. And they're like a K-pop boy band, you know, like to influence people to get more souls, like making fun of it. And they're like, yes. So they come up to the surface, and they're a boy band, and they're making these music. And then it shows like the battle that takes place in the spirit realm. So like it shows their frequencies like starts taking over territories, but it literally shows as they're playing, people start to go into a trance. Their eyes start to get all like, they can't think for themselves. And there's even some scenarios where like people put on their headphones and they're listening to this boy band music, and then all of a sudden a demon comes from behind them and like snatches their soul from them. And so it's like, they're not shy at showing you their agenda. They're not shy at showing you what it's all about. People just refuse to believe it. And what's crazy is people, they love their creature comforts so much. I guarantee you there's people watching this right now who are like, don't touch my music. Like, don't touch my music. Don't you say that about my music. I'm still going to listen to my this, and I'm still going to listen to my that. And I'm still going to listen to, yeah, I agree, current music is bad, but, you know, back in the early 2000s or back in the 90s. And it's like, no, dude, from the beginning of time, music has been like, I stand on this. Either the Holy Spirit is directly inspiring you to create music, or some other forces. That's all there is to it.
Well,
there is no in between.
Well, you definitely see, just based on kind of like the generations of music, that when you kind of do think about it being an op, like that, you know, again, it's like a lot of music is very good, but you never heard of it. And why haven't you heard of it? It's because they're not promoting this kind of music. And so you even think about like when you went from like, you know, when I grew up, of course, it's all about like rock and roll bands, glam rock, and then it goes right into grunge, and then rock and roll like goes away. But if you go back before that, there was like in the 60s and stuff, it was all about drugs and free love and sex and just meaningless sex. And this is all being promoted at the same time as like this conflict in Vietnam is happening. And it's like, this is why the boomers are probably the way that they are. But check this out. This is interesting because I just thought about this, because what basically on MTV kind of killed like rock was boy bands and rap, right? Because it was like that, like who would have ever thought that that kind of music would replace all these, you know, like mega like rock stars. Like these people were like, you know, they were like, you know, there was only like one Michael Jackson, but I mean, like as far as like rock stars go, there was lots of them, and those people still sell out stadiums, but you don't hear their music anywhere else unless you listen to like the oldies station now.
Yeah, it's true.
Check this out.
That meme going around about Woodstock 99. $200,000 aggressive young men of all shapes and sizes, colors, and creeds coming together to rock out, going, F the man.
Yeah,
and the CIA saw that and were like, yeah, we're turning up boy bands.
Billy Corgan said there was an active movement to destroy rock music and the camaraderie of it.
Rock has been purposely dialed down in the culture.
When would you say that began? Mid-2000s?
Late 90s. Again, this gets wizard behind the curtain, right? Some people assert that the CIA was involved in all that, again, above my pay grade, but I saw it happen. I did witness it happen. Suddenly they decided rock was out and it was replaced by rap.
Right.
Rock is probably the most dominant ticket selling thing in the Western world, and yet there's almost no representation of rock in culture.
Right.
So why do we have that schism? I think they purposely dialed down the ability of rock stars to have a voice in the culture.
Rap music ain't been lately.
It's very interesting though, because like you want to dismiss what Billy Corgan says, but then look at the rap that was popular in the 90s. And then by like 2005, 2006, look at the rap that was popular. It was like chingy and really like teeny bop rap.
Right.
Now, whether you think the government did it, you believe in Operation Mockingbird.
Even Ice Cube said that he wouldn't be surprised if NWA was a psyop because he was so young, they exploded. They were masculine, but they were the underdogs. They were the black underdogs to get you angry at the machine. I don't think they expected white culture to go for rap the way that we did.
Right. And skating. And like white culture became counterculture.
Yeah.
In a way that they definitely did not expect.
And that's why in the 90s you did have very like against the machine kind of music, no matter who was making it. I mean, NWA had broken up, but you still had Eazy-E, Tupac, Notorious B.I.G. And I mean, look what happened to all of them.
Interesting. So they saw the influence and the control that kind of music had at Woodstock, and it terrified them. Like they were afraid it was going to like, it could take over the masses kind of thing.
Yeah, it's sort of, I mean, of course, I remember, you know, that's probably my favorite period in music is, you know, maybe just because the age I am. But you think about those bands where, yeah, they were really the Rage Against the Machine, right? Like that band. And now that those guys rage for the machine, they were trying to get everyone to get their shots
rage,
and everything.
They rage alongside the machine now.
Yeah, but no, but you think about it like that message, it's like this system sucks, right? Like, 'cause that's what they were all singing about, and they weren't wrong. And man, if they said that then, what do they think about it now?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't want those people to be influenced in people's minds, and so then they just turn the tap off. So I mean, so now that like people like us, you know, not necessarily I listen to that stuff anymore, but I mean, the only way you have to go see them live, and now it's a bunch of old people like me with gray hair. Go and watch them, but no young kids are going to watch those shows anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, like even that's what they were saying. It's like the rappers were like gangsta back in the 90s, right? They were living that thug life. And then you get into like,
for sure.
It wasn't shortly after that they kind of morphed into like Nelly, people like that maybe. And then it got really gay. And then it got gay and satanic. It's weird. I mean, it's weird. I mean, again, it's kind of like that. I can't explain exactly what they're going for with that, but it is like that you see a lot of these rappers now and they are so effeminate, like the way they dance around and stuff, versus all these guys back in the day who were just walking around with their, you know, hands on their guns and stuff like that. And then all these rock stars, they were, it was a total counterculture movement. And yeah, maybe that was the thing. Like they can't, you know, it's like, I don't know. It's, because they still do kind of want to promote a counterculture, but just not that one. And they want to have some kind of a polarity where like they want division, like they want two messages again. Like it's like they have a message here and they got a message here, and they want you to somewhere in the middle of that.
It would be interesting to actually do a podcast where we do a deep dive on that polarity and what it looks like over the years, because all you have to do is go through the Billboard Top 40 month to month, year after year, over the last 30 years, 35 years, and it will paint a perfect picture of exactly what they've tried to do with the narrative. Because you don't make it to the Billboard Top 40 unless you're being promoted by them. So like that would paint a perfect picture. Because those bands, you know, Rage Against the Machine and Limp Bizkit and bands like that, they were in the Billboard Top 40 back then.
But yeah, that's the funny part. I remember I was telling you guys, I must have been like in Vegas, and I was at like the Hard Rock somewhere. I was getting some dinner, and they were just playing. They were like old music videos, but I think this was kind of pre-music video, and they were just playing a lot of bands from like the 60s and 70s, and it was like every song they were playing was like, oh my gosh, there was a lot of diversity in the music, and there was a lot of there was larger than life bands, like lots of them. And that was like,
there's a lot of them.
It's hard to even imagine like when you turn on the radio and that's what they played. Like all kinds of normal, like, I want to say normal music, but you know what I'm saying? Like, but that was the normal music that they played on the radio. back then.
Well, those were during the times like when me and my brothers and my friends were being inspired to make music. I mean, like my first band was a punk rock band. And all of the music that I made in the first couple of bands that I was in, it all involved heavy guitars, overdrive, like singing, but like it was all like very, very hard rock type music, like very, very hard rock. Like that was all the stuff that influenced. And then of course it got like a little more melodic as time went. And then there was the emo phase and there was like all of that kind of stuff.
Did you have like, the hair? Did you have like the hair over your eye?
I never did. I listen. It's I don't know. It is what it is.
Should have got one of those emo, but animals, whatever, like the ox or whatever.
Oh gosh, no. I've kept it real over the years. I've rocked the faux hawk since I was young, man. That's all I can. That's the only hairstyle I can pull off. Did I like the Clash? Oh yeah. Yeah. I did back in the day. Like I don't listen to anything anymore, but yeah, no, they were influential. Rancid was one of the bands that was like heavily influential to the type of music that I wrote back in the day. Jimmy Eat World was very influential. But yeah, but I mean, even so was like the Police, Sting.
Yeah.
Like, and so was, but like, I also loved like some of the old school rap stuff. Like I loved Run DMC. And anyways, yeah, there was a lot of like things were very, very, very different. But yeah, you think about it now, like none of those hard rock bands, a lot of them are making comebacks, but like you said, only in the sense that people our age are willing to go see them on tour. None of them are having
they're not going to see like the
anymore.
same kind of commercial success because they're just not
at all.
They're not promoted. And I guess that's the thing when we always talk about that, the idea that like the music industry is like almost like one of the most clear examples when they say these people sold their souls. They signed this deal that these record companies own these people. And you can imagine like when you do kind of think about some of the things they've said over the years about, they're hinting that this is an op. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because they know that they're good. They know that they're famous and they know that they can pack out arenas and they can sell as many albums as they'll let them sell. But then you find out one day, it's like, you can imagine the confusion for these bands one day when they're just like, we don't really care what you put out anymore. We're not going to promote it. And they're like, and even like from like a secular mindset, you're like, what do you mean? I'm making you guys millions of dollars. Like, why wouldn't you want us to do this? And it's just like, I'm sorry, it's not happening. Like this, we've moved past this.
And the truth is, it was never about that. It was never about whether people like the music or not.
No, it's all about influencing generations of people. And to what end? To what end? I mean, I think I guess it's the thing is like, that is worth some research. That's worth a little bit of a study. Like kind of, if you could just kind of chart, the Billboard Top 40 and kind of see the correlation of like the different kinds of messages that have been pushed. Because again, we always talk about like Bad Bunny. Would Bad Bunny be performing at the Super Bowl if he wasn't given like the rocket ship treatment to the moon to do whatever he wants to do?
No,
Nobody would
never.
have no one would have and should have ever heard of him.
Dude, imagine an interview with Fred Durst in the 90s and them showing him a snippet of Bad Bunny in the future and saying, this is the future of music.
He would try to break stuff.
Dude, that interview would have never been able to make it on TV because it would have been beeped out, almost all of it. But yeah, no, it's gotten pretty crazy. It's gotten pretty crazy. But yeah, if you don't do that or we don't do that, that's a great content idea for somebody out there to go over the history of the Billboard Top 40, and that will literally perfectly spell out exactly what the agenda has been over time.
Yeah, you could do the same thing for movies and TV as well. The whole thing, because that's the thing. The kind of movies they make, the kind of TV shows they make now, there's a pattern there. There's absolutely a pattern there. We can see kind of like the 30,000 foot view, kind of see it, but like if you did dial it down to like the different generations of the things they're doing, there's absolutely an agenda. So be aware, be as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves, as
Amen.
Jesus tells us. So on that note, guys, Hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Unfortunately, no Brian. I thought he might pop in here, but I thought it was a great show all the same. And if you guys enjoy these podcasts and you guys want to support this podcast, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can check out Modern Roots Life, the sponsor of this podcast, get yourself healthy, and support a great Christian-owned company. Also, you can watch these episodes early and uncensored on my Patreon, so consider subscribing over there. Also, guys, I got an announcement to make. New merch. Check this out. We got tank tops. Got the classic Jesus Said There'd Be Haters for man and for women. There you got they're different. So if you guys like the shirts, it's summertime, sun's out, guns out, check that out. Also, if you guys are considering making content and you don't know how to say it or you don't know how to make videos, editing, whatever you're looking for, consider checking out the Echoes of Truth Network, where Aaron and myself are coaching. We got a great group, and we'd love to add you to that group. Anyways, guys, regardless, if you can't support the podcast other than just watching and listening, just hit us a like, share, and subscribe, comment for more. Also, we love you guys. See you next time.
JT's mixtape, now a show about history, faith, and truth, with the sound and the conversation we've never heard before. JT's mixtape, now there's a podcast that has exactly what we've been looking for all of us who will not compromise. Listen, JT created mixtape for us. Woo!